Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Rugby Scoop podcast. We are live. The Sharks coming under fire at Loftus. The Warriors manhandled at Leinster. Not by myself. I'm with Jade Craig, with Vuyo Zanga. Jade, how are you doing? How was the weekend?
Good, Scoop. All good. A lot of rugby and meaningful games this weekend, both competitions we daily follow. So, good.
Yeah. Playoffs are always a fun time to have. It's a good time to kind of focus on some key players. Very competitive finals all round from Super Rugby to URC. We're going to be covering URC. We're going to be covering Super Rugby. Vickers, how are things over there? How's the wine in China?
Bro, no wine, unfortunately. Only vodka. But all good, brother. All good. It's so strange to hear Jade is upbeat because the Blues did their number on the number one team. But anyway, yeah, all good, brother.
Told you so.
Told us so. Yeah, guys, we're going to get straight into it. We'll kick it off with I think we can start off with the Leinster Warriors, and then we look at the Blue Bulls and the Sharks, and then we'll head over to Pacific, to the razzle-dazzle country, Aotearoa, Scrumming Flower's favorite country in the world. He might be wearing a Springbok shirt and jersey in his profile, but we know his first love is New Zealand. Anyway, going straight into it, Warriors. We had them last week. We thought we were going to see an upset coming this weekend against Leinster. But Leinster definitely came to the party, definitely rocked up, and basically showed them who's boss. I think they dominated the forward game quite well. Defensively, I was very impressed with Leinster, and I think Jacques Nienaber has done very well in basically coming back from the scrutiny he faced during the Investec Championship. But I think their defensive lines were quite solid, well-organized team, but their forward pack for me stood out in that game against the Warriors. Warriors had no answers. I mean, after last week, they dominated the Stormers in the forward pack. But this weekend, they really couldn't back it, or they didn't back up that performance against the Stormers. Unfortunately, they were nullified completely by the Leinster forward pack and the defense. Jade, what are your thoughts regarding Warriors and Leinster? Straightforward game. I mean, we're looking at 30 points to 5 at one point with probably about 15 to 20 minutes to go. So it wasn't really a competitive game as we thought it would be.
Yeah, no. You hit the nail on the head there, Scoop, when you mentioned, Leicester's pack. I think they tight five with, Porter. We give him a lot of slack. Sheehan, Clarkson, McCarthy, and Ryan. I think they did the job on the day, and they put up their hand, at semi-finals time, and they got them the platform, where they could, exploit Glasgow from. I think also the Hastings selection at Flough, moving Tom Jordan, who we all raved about last week, moving him to inside centre, and then having Hastings in at Flough. I mean, they pinned him at 40 minutes or so, and that time the game was gone. I mean, we can all see that the game was gone at that time because Leinster was just the far superior team. I mean, even the guys like Dodge, Pinter, the Lucy's of Warriors weren't not the best Lucy's in the world, but I mean the hard workers, and they do a job every game or so. They were nowhere in the game, they were actually outplayed. They weren't up to standard that they were, last week against Stormers, where they put in tackle after tackle, got over the advantage line and so. But for me, Leinster really put up there, and the tight five put up there and got the work done. And, if you're looking forward into the final, they're going to have to do that. They still, even though they had a solid game, the tight five, they're going to have to pick it up against more against that Blue Bulls back. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think it's job done for Leinster. Did they silence the critics? I can only see that next week, Scoop. They'll have to win this competition to silence some critics. But, yeah, they got the job done. They're into the final. The semi-final voodoo of the past 2 or 3 semi-finals that they lost. I mean, they're claiming that they're over it, but yeah, the critics only be silenced maybe if they win the final convincingly, basically.
Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. Because while Jade was talking, I was just thinking to myself, this competition, we haven't had a back-to-back winner since the competition started. It's always been a new team that comes up on top. We remember when Stormers started, and then it moved to Munster, then it moved to Glasgow Warriors, and now we're about to have another new championship, a new champion crowned next week in the final. But how difficult is it, man, to really win this competition? I'm looking at Franco Smith now with the Warriors. They just came short in the semi-final. They had no answers compared to what they did last year. They surprised everybody, but now they really couldn't go over the line to go back up last year's performance. Why is this competition so difficult to go back to back?
Look, I don't think it's that difficult. We saw Munster win. We saw one Munster win the final in Cape Town, but we saw Munster lose. I think they lost semi-final in I think it was in Ireland. But my thing is that it's not difficult. I think the main thing is that you have to understand the pan out of the competition. So once you get to this stage, there's no more resting players, and I don't understand how teams will still feel like they need to not to go hard on the starting lineup and go hard on the main team. So for me, I think it's a matter of just understanding your dynamics on within the tournament. Munster was good. Leinster was good against Glasgow. They were clinical. They almost listened to us in our conversations last week, where we felt that they could lose, but Leinster was pretty much top of the game. There was a moment, which is about 10 minutes, where they slacked off a little bit, but then after that, they picked up. And I will verse it against the Bulls, because the Bulls have this moment where they were nowhere in the game. And it's happened now, 3 or 4 games in the running. So for me, I think it's just a matter of, look, Leinster were pretty clinical. Both teams tried to go back on the short side. I don't know why they went back on the short side. Both teams were trying to implement a strategy where hitting up one, trying to go back to the short side with some mini plays, and both teams got penalized on block runners. But for me, it's a matter of, I don't understand what the plan was within the two teams within the lineouts. But as we're discussing now, Leinster were pretty much simple. Tried to implement their strategy. Dan Sheehan was pretty good again. Pendergrass, for me, tried to actually make up for his mistakes. Missed a lot of kicks, not too important within the game perspective, but could be in the final if he does miss the same. But Jacques Naba has been found that his defense is quite weak on the outside, and most of the teams will try to beat that rush outside defense. So he needs something to change. You need something to make a difference in terms of maybe not rushing outside in, but maybe up and shift. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I mean, those are the guys. Those are the specialists. So they'll have to do something, because Glasgow did get through them a couple of times on the outside. Scarlets did get through them on a couple of times on the outside, and it's going to come down to, if you're versing a quality team, what's going to happen?
Yeah, and the Bulls are starting to find form, and they've got some blisters. Blisters. They've got some blitz runners on the outside as well. I think with that, we understand how Leinster plays. We understand how they're going to approach the final as well. But now let's head over to Loftus, Jade. What a cracker of a game. That forward pack from the Blue Bulls, my man. Talk to me, Jade. Wow.
What I mean, we complimented them a few weeks ago when you asked me who's a standout for them, and I mentioned all 6, front rows. I mentioned Akka, I mentioned Steenkamp, Krobelaar, Mondre Smith, Walker Lowe's having a blind over season. And then, one of the unsung heroes. I mean, last year I criticized and I said, what is young Hendrik Wessel's position? Is he really going to move to hooker or is he a loose head prop? Because he's played hooker in URC and then he selected a loose head prop for the box. But I think he's settled now at loose head prop. But wow, what a stellar performance from the front row yesterday. I mean, to push and to dominate at times, a Springbok back and Springbok front row like they did yesterday. Yeah. I mean, we can go about it, we can do all the technicalities and we can look at it and say, yeah, but certain things is not legal or so. But I mean, come on, they made a statement yesterday. And I said it earlier. I said Leinster's pack was good, but this is heat. The Bulls brings heat. I mean, Scoop, if you look at the game yesterday, and you would think the Bulls was convincing, and you would think the Bulls, looking at the score and you think the Bulls convincing. The Bulls, Jake White really a little bit disappointed with his discipline. He considered 3 yellow cards. In that time, the Sharks had a lot of ball. A lot of ball. If you look at it, I mean, the Bulls made, 181 tackles to 76. And, they even missed 40 tackles. They gave the Sharks a chance, but the Sharks couldn't do anything with it. And it just shows you can go on the whole season how poor the Sharks have been, with possession, and they don't have a plan, don't have a structure. But it just shows you that this Bulls team has something. I mean, an unsung hero, a guy like Sebastian de Klerk, coming in, from, I think he came from the Pumas, right? He came right from Pumas, he came into the Bulls era. Had a stellar of a game yesterday against the likes of Ethan Hooker, against Mapimpi, who's been outstanding for the Sharks all season. So, you look at the Bulls and you think, hey, they've got a team full of stars. I don't think they really have superstars, but they play well as a team and they're gelling together as a team. I mean, Ambrose Papier, another good performance from him. Unlucky again not to be in the Bok team. I'm not going to dwell too much on that. They'll be a little bit concerned with Hanekom's injury going to the final because, already losing Erich Lau, maybe they might be a little bit thin there in that aspect. Because you do know that Ruan Nokia is playing on the flank, playing at open side at time, blind side at time. So I think he'll be sweating on that injury because he does make a difference. He is, what's the word? I wouldn't say X factor, but he is one of those, players that, can take the game away from Leinster, as he did last year in the semi-final. But Jake White will be going over to Ireland next week, and I don't think this team is going to leave anything behind. I think if you look at that Leinster squad and you're thinking they got a strong squad, they got a strong bench, look at this Bulls bench. This Bulls they've got a few cattle on that bench, that can make a difference. They've got guys like Marco van Staden coming in from the bench. They've got guys like Janus Christen coming in from the bench, look at Akker, Mondre Smith coming in from the bench. So for me, this Bulls team, they can go deep next week. And for me, the longer they stay in the game next week, the more worried Leinster will be against this Bulls team because I don't see Leinster dominating at scrum time next week, and I don't see them winning contact situations in this Bulls team next week.
Oh, big one next week. Vickers, what did you see from the Sharks' attack? Jade talks about 3 yellow cards, and the Sharks couldn't find any rhythm. There was no fluidity in their attack. There was a one point where they were everyone was just getting the ball from Jaden and just crash ball. One ball, crash ball. Ball from the deck, one guy, one off runner, crash ball. And I'm like, what is happening? Right? And the back line, they were looking for magic. You're looking for, who's this guy now? Ethan Hooker to kind of bring on the magic. And he can't do everything by himself all the time. Chutuka, he can't do everything by himself all the time. And Mbonambi was probably halfway injured half of the time of the game. Like on the ground, there's a knee problem here, there's a shoulder problem there. I don't know, where was the fluidity? They weren't fluid at all on attack.
Yeah, Scoop, it's a bit tough though when you see that on the eye, because at the end of the day, you know what? Every team should have what we call a basic structure to go back to. You know how to go back to the structure. You either move the ball to the touchline and then you start to regroup in terms of your pods, and then you start the process again. Like you're saying, there was a times where they were broken. I think that's, for me, the one cry that I have versus the team is that I wish they could establish like a basic structure where this is our structure. If we do fall to the trap where we're not penetrating the defense, then can we go back to the structure and restart our process again? So unfortunately, yeah, that's where it comes in. But in terms of what Jade was talking about, I don't want us to fall away from the fact that, remember, the Bulls dominated two scrums, guys. They dominated two scrums. Sia moved to 6 from 8, and then the domination stopped. So it wasn't an ultimate domination throughout the game. It was a matter of what was the personnel within the scrum, and I feel, in my feeling, that Oxen Chair called for Sia to come and help because Sia knows, and they scrum together with the Springboks in every time. I mean, so he called him, and we saw Fenter moving to 8. So for me, I think it wasn't a big deal. The scrums weren't that dominant. The fact that she took a couple of lineouts, the set piece in terms of scrums as well, the Sharks were actually pretty stable. They actually dominated a couple of scrums where I felt that they should have gotten a penalty, but the ref didn't give it to them. But it's just a matter of the Bulls literally dominate two scrums, if not three, and we're already raving about the Bulls scrum. No, guys, it's not. It's not going to happen. When these guys go to Leinster will probably do the same. Probably try to manage the first 2 or 3 scrums, and then they know that after that it's going to become an equal conversation. So I feel like we're taking away the conversation from being in a good stead as a team, which is the Sharks were in a good stead. Guys, the Sharks were dominating. Their ball carriers were dominating. They were going good forward ball. The only thing they didn't do well is finish well. We all know they had the ball, they could have finished the game, and they could have actually annihilated the Bulls, but they didn't because of the fact they kept on doing things that we didn't understand. Some offloads I even didn't understand. I didn't understand some offloads, but
Yeah.
they were there. But they could have won the game, and they lost the game based on their fact that they couldn't
Finish.
They couldn't do the basics, bro. The basics were simple. Get to the point clean. Get the ball to the next player. I mean, Oxen Chair, if a lucid prop who's that strong, being held up before halftime in a try zone, how? It's unacceptable. Because if you're going to call this guy as a Springbok, if that's a World Cup final, and you do that to a World Cup final, it's unacceptable. So don't accept it because he's playing for the Sharks.
Fair, 100%. Because I mean, a tight end prop being held over the try line, that's criminal. Jade, you wanted to jump in here? Yes. Before you jump in, Vickers, Jade, I agree, Vickers. The Sharks did have some form of attack and could go forward at times, but the finishing was terrible. There was a lot of handling errors in their attack. There was a lot of disconnection as well in terms of support runners. At times there weren't people that almost like knew what they had to do with ball in hand. It seemed kind of disorientated most of the time. But yes, they did get some fluid. They did get over the advantage line a few times. They scored early in the second half. I thought, okay, cool. Once they score early, then they'll get some ascendancy and try and dominate this game. Because if I compare what Sharks did last night versus the last game they played with the Blue Bulls at Loftus, do you know the game was so simple where Jaden Hendrickse used to put those aerial bombs from the deck from the base of the ruck, right? And you had Hooker, you had Mapimpi chasing like rabbits. Or hare, basically, right? And they would compete in the air and they would disrupt the Bulls, and the Bulls couldn't find any answers in that regard. I feel like they changed their tactic this time around, the Sharks. I don't know why, because they've been playing that same game throughout the whole season, and then all of a sudden there's no more aerial bombs, there's no more testing Villy Leroux in the air. Fassi was joining the line most of the time, and I don't know why he was just joining to just make one pass and then move away. And I'm like, what are you doing? Right? I didn't see him between 13 and 15, or 13 and 11, or 13 and 14 at times, just coming into that channel on a short pass, or just try and come into the middle. Every time you would go and move into the 10 position and start executing, and I'm like, where's Hendrickson through all of this, right? But yeah, there were moments, but I mean, let's be honest as well, the Blue Bulls also had, 13 people at one time, 12 people on the pitch, and Sharks could not execute. How terrible is that? I mean, they had senior players that have been playing Springboks as well. You kind of have to understand, okay, there's 3 people missing in this team right now. Where can we find areas to exploit them? Where can we find, what game tactics can we use to exploit those channels? What game smarts can we use to put the Bulls under pressure? It didn't happen. And Bulls get one sniff and they go score a try. One sniff, it's a quick across. Mapimpi is sleeping. What's his name? Gets a pass on the edge. And it's another try, So at the end of the day, we also need to credit the Blue Bulls as well. As much as the Sharks brought it to them, but the Blue Bulls also were patient. They dominated most of those breakdowns as well. I mean, the contest was very ferocious, 100%. Jade, jump in there.
No, Scoop, you hit the nail on the head there. And I also think the frustration came in as well. I mean, when you're playing against 13 men and you're chasing the game, for example, and okay, I got a snip in this game. And then you get an instance before halftime with Oaks get yelled up, over the line. What frustration gets in? And that's when actually I think the Sharks, with all of the players they had this at their disposal, and they've been in the situation before. I mean, last year we spoke on the spot where the Sharks played against, I think it was the Lions or somebody, against 13. Didn't go for a scrum, when they had 2 guys short in the back line. Didn't do the simple things. And that's what the Sharks, I mean, they lost the game. I think they lost the game or they drew the game. However, I feel that with the Sharks in situations like this, I think I expect a little bit more from the senior players because they've got some senior guys in there. They've got 2 guys as captain the box, or 3 guys with Lukhanyo Am, Insia, and Bong, that's being captain in the box. I think that's where these guys should just settle them down or so. But also, quickly, I mean, there's been a lot of, and this is going to wheel, there's been a lot of hate and shame going on, towards Lukhanyo Am yesterday. He didn't have the best of games. But I just want to put this out there for you, and I really need your input on this. The way I see it in World Rugby at the moment, I don't see 13s being that much of a threat on attack as they were, let's say 5, 6 years, or maybe a decade ago when you had the likes of, O'Driscoll, Puri, and Mortlock. So I think the game's shaping up more where your 12 is the one carrying the ball, creating more than your 13. Your 13 is more you use for, quick hands to the winger, sitting up, cleaning. I don't see them actually, a lot of 13s actually, hitting gaps anymore, getting it outside gap. I mean, Lukhanyo Am was the last one that I could really think of, it was really this massive attacking threat at 13. 1 or 2 or 3 of them around the world. I mean, maybe Hugh Jones and what's this guy's name that plays for the Canes, Proctor, maybe one, and Ikitau. They're the 13s that really stand out in terms of, finding it out there. But why is it so now that you're looking at outside centers now, and the shape in World Rugby, we're seeing less 13s, really standing out and getting a lot of attacking meters, making a lot of breaks? Is it the way the defense is shaping now with a rush defense? Everyone's going to a blitz defense, or what is the reason for that? Could you maybe give us a little insight, from a backline coach in that perspective?
All right, well, mate. You know what? Things have changed. Like you say, Jade, there's a lot of rush defense. There's a lot of rush defense which will shut down from outside in. And it makes life very difficult for attacking perspective. But it actually depends on the 13 itself. If I had Lukhanyo Am in my 13 with his kind of skills, I would literally try to get the ball to him as much as I can so that he can sort out that rush defense, because he's got the vision, he's got the skills, he's got the passing skills, he's got the kicking skills. We he can actually make sure that you stop rushing. He'll beat the defense once, and the defense coach will scream and say, "Hey, listen, guys, stop rushing, hold," because it's Lukhanyo Am. So it's a matter of being a coach and giving your players the trust and giving your team basically the belief that because you have this player on this position, you can do what you want. And I feel like, Jade, it has changed because of the fact that you, as you mentioned, is it the rush defense? Is it the kind of players what they're picking at 13? And there's not a lot of players like Lukhanyo Am at 13. But if you're gonna cancel Lukhanyo Am at 13, meaning that if the 12 is carrying all the time and you're getting your 13 to clean to be the primary cleaner, your 13 is never gonna get involved in rugby. But if you have such a skillful player like Lukhanyo Am, you surely have to make a plan. You surely have to, from lineouts, get someone else to clean. For example, if you're gonna go scrums, maybe get your blindside wing to clean, for example. Like, do something so that you free up that 13, because he's got the skills, he's got the talent, he's got the vision that he can create something. And I feel like in nowadays, the coaches just make it simple. They keep it so simple that it makes, like, it's not based on the talent of the player. It's just based on the fact that I need to get this ball back to the forwards so that I can go to the next phase and then I can kick. And I mean, when I look at the way that I coach backline players, is that we always look at the number 13, how they number 13 defends. So every move is based on how the number 13 defends. And if the number 13 is a we call him tackle hungry. If the number 13 is a tackle hungry guy who wants to hit every person that comes into his channel, then we're gonna use that. We're gonna go to unders line out the back, so that he does shoot in on the person that's coming on the unders. Then it's gonna make our lives easier. So you always, but I don't see that in nowadays. I don't see that. I see that it's very simple rugby. If the 12 carry, 13 is following. Like, there's no creativity, and it's so sad. But come on, it's one thing. It's one of those things where, as a coaching group, you have to understand that you have to play the chess game. Play the chess game. Move a pawn, a double move pawn. Maybe that will get you closer to the king. I don't know. For me, I'm a different coach in terms of how I see the game. So I would never understand a lot of coaches how they would view the game.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Took us to school, Vickers Miranda. But Vickers, not letting you go so easily. Ambrose Papier, you've spoken about this guy throughout the season, through every single, or not every single episode, but most episodes. You've brought his name up a few times and how impressed you've been with him over the season. But man, oh man, he's a different player in that Blue Bulls team, and the Bulls cannot. I repeat, that Bulls team does not function without Ambrose Papier. Tell me about Ambrose, because
look, Scoop, I was a big fan when we started the season, especially this season. I think, look, if you look at the only things that we have to look at is the dynamics of the team. The Bulls have been dominating in the scrums. It was the first time, actually, yesterday. I think the Bulls haven't dominated the lineout. For me, it's a matter of this kid has got what it takes, and I see now why he made the Springboks in 2016, 2017 era. And I feel like if he could have the Springbok pack that we always talk about, the dominance, I feel like we have a player, because he's not only a threat on defense or on attack, he's actually an influence on how the movement of the players goes, and his kicking game is in top shape. So it's a pity. It's a pity that he's not being viewed in the same view that I'm seeing. But I feel like the Bulls pack is good, but it's not great. And if he could have the same pack, a similar pack to the Springbok pack, I think Ambrose Papier could be one of the main scrum halves, even beating Jaden, even beating Williams, because he's got the all-round game. And again, the kid is just special in terms of his communication skills, his kicking skills, and his awareness for the game. And that's what you need from your 9. And if you're going to go to a 9-10 combination, I want to see this next year. Pollard moving to the Bulls. You have Ambrose Papier at 9. I want to see this because we could experience something very special between the two of them. And then I would love to see the fact that is he going to be involved in the Springboks because of that combination, or would it still be kept out?
Yeah, fair enough. Jade, from your perspective, now we're going to look at next week's final between Bulls and Leinster. I mean, what can the Bulls do to nullify that Leinster team next week? Because we've seen them do it away from home, and everyone was surprised when Blue Bulls beat Leinster away from home, came to play the Stormers. They had a week to travel as well, etc., but they lost that final against the Stormers. But nonetheless, we know they are capable of doing it. Obviously, Honeycomb, we don't know how severe the injury is. Will he be available or not, etc. But the Bulls have a good back line. Leinster have a good back line. The Bulls have a good, strong forward pack. I saw Leinster had rested a few players yesterday. One of the props, what's his name, Furlong, and their captain as well, the Irish captain, forgot his name, 8th man. But nonetheless, they were seating. They were in the booth watching the game from the stands. But I mean, what can the Bulls do next week to really nullify that Leinster team and actually make them work harder than they've worked? Because I mean, we saw what Saints did. And I'm sure Jake White will probably try and implement something similar against this Leinster outfit.
Look, Scoop, when Leinster play and how you're going to get at them, what Leinster want to do is they want to start fast. So they want to blitz you in that first 10, 15 minutes or so, score 2, 3 tries, and, put the game to bed. The Bulls have got to be prepared for that fast start. So, yeah, what the Bulls would like to do, Jake White, is, okay, we're going to start first. What I'll do here is we're going to get the kickoff, we're going to kick to you, try and win the ball back, or try and make them exit, so we can secure the ball. Do not give them possession in that first five minutes or so, Try and keep your hands on the ball, try and milk a few penalties, put them back, kick the points, take your points, go forward like that. But also be prepared, if Leinster do start fast, to counterpunch. We're going to have to stay in this game, and we're going to have to stay composed, not drop our heads. Because there's a good possibility with the Leinster team that, they can go 15, 20 points up in the first 20 minutes or so. We've seen it do it to many teams before. We've seen it do it to La Rochelle in the final before as well. But you're going to have to be prepared, to get back into the game. Find a way to get back into the game. I mean, if you're getting points and if you go in the lead, if you get a fast start, make sure your kickoff receives a spot on. Make sure you exit the spot on. Kick the ball deep. No soft points, in the first 20 or 15 minutes or so. No soft points, no soft, easy exits, turnovers and stuff like that to get them a foothold in the game. Because that's how they do pressurize you. I mean, we spoke about it and I said, the Bulls for me, I think they're the better scrum than Leinster. I don't rate Leinster scrum as strong as I do rate with the Bulls. I think that throughout the year, the Bulls and throughout the season, the Bulls scrum has been stronger. However, they're going to have to be prepared at line-out time to win their line-out ball. McCarthy and Ryan, what's the guy's name as well? Ryan Beard as well, playing a 6, they're not bad at line-out time as well. Conan as well. So the Bulls got to be on sound at line-out time. They can't give turnovers and give Leinster easy possession. They're going to make Leinster fight hard for the possession in the territory. The same thing they did at Loftus last year. It's easy to plan out tactics, but I just look at the psychological thing. prevent that fast start. And if they do start fast, if you do concede in the first 5 minutes, counter punch, try and get back into the game. Do not go 20 points down. Try and stay in the game for as long as you can. Do not let Leicester get away from it, because that's what Northants also done. They counter that. And if you're going to do that against them, you're going to frustrate them. And slowly, surely, you're going to grow into the game. And Leinster, the demons will start to get into the head. Because, they are struggling. They know they've got this. They need to win the CRC, and they need to beat the Bulls. So there's two voodoos there that, they've got to get rid of the weekend. So play that psychological game with them, but try, like I said, prevent that fast start.
No, fair enough. Vickers, how do you see Leinster then? Changing? Do you see Leinster changing any attack shape from what they've been doing? Do you see them maybe still benching a Geordie or starting him? Because since they've started him, they've started to win the games that are important, the games that they need to win. When they have him on the bench, they kind of struggle a bit. I think it's helpful to have a Geordie Barrett next to a Pendergrass, because I think it gives great assistance and probably motivates him a little bit more, and he gets more comfortable playing in that 10 position when Geordie Barrett is next to him. But what do you think the Leinster can do to the Bulls this weekend?
Yeah, Scoop, I think if you look at the two, Jade has mentioned a couple of things that are very important, is that they will need to contain the Bulls at some point, but we can't forget that if you're Leinster, you need to start very quickly, and they must start very quickly. But they need to also understand there will become a time within the game when the Bulls will come, and also there will become a time where the Bulls will fold in terms of they will go down in their mindset and their mentality. We saw them go to 13 players. It's been happening for the last 3 or 4 weeks. We saw them, they have a dip in their game, and that's when Leinster needs to take charge. That's when Leinster needs to make sure that they are actually pouncing on that era, because if you're gonna beat them, you need to make sure that you understand this is what they have. They have the scrum. And I still don't believe that. Barring the Stormers game that the Bulls had, they would dominate the scrum from minute 1 to minute 80. The Sharks, they only dominated 2 or 3 scrums. They didn't go more than that. So as Leinster, you need to just make sure you're going to stick around for that first couple of minutes in making sure that you're actually within the scrums. Then Sheehan is back to his best. They need Ted Furlong to be on his best. They need Porter to be on his best. They need the Locks to be on their best. Doris needs to be back in the mix. I would even go Arjus Neyman back in the mix in the starting lineup. You got Geordie Barrett at 12. So for me, it's like they have the tools. Now they just need to make sure that they start the game fast and maintain that middle part where they will dip within the game like they did last week. Because last week, you remember, guys, they started the game very quickly. And then Glasgow came back, but then they managed that middle part very well. And they scored a couple of points. They scored 1 or 2 tries within that middle part. And that's where the Bulls will fault. So when the Bulls are on a dip, they need to up the intensity and make sure that they get into the right areas of the game and get points, because as we know, Sharks missed a lot of points within that dipping phase of the Bulls, and unfortunately, it is gonna come down to who's gonna have the best focus. It's gonna come down to who's gonna have the best management within the game, and we have. Both teams have top players. Both teams have top players, so it's going to come down to who manages that dip between the both two teams well. And hopefully, it's so sad. The Bulls have had 19 yellow cards this season. That is not good. That's a shame. So if they continue not to be disciplined within the game against Leinster, unfortunately, that game is gone. They'll have to change something.
Yeah. Fair enough. Something just popped into my head now, Jade. Last week or 2 weeks ago or this past month, there's been a lot of rumors and murmurs around Marcel Coetzee having to take over Siya Kolisi. What are your thoughts regarding Marcel and how he played yesterday for the Bulls? I mean, he's really rocked up. Not to say Siya has been a slouch either this season, but Marcel, do you think there's potential to go back into the box squad? Rassi hasn't given any ideas, obviously, but I mean, do you think after the season there's potential of that happening?
We have to look at the pecking order. And obviously, I mean, we said it before that, a guy like Rassi, he rewards you for your performances that you have with the box, that you're doing with the box. So, I mean, if it does come to a situation like myself, you've got to look at who's ahead of him, He's had a good performance for the Bulls. He's got a good season. But I mean, sitting with Kwagga, Stia, that Kwagga comes on in his 15 minutes, after 15 minutes, then does the open side role. We're looking at a guy like Marco van Staden that's, started in, Stia has not started as well at open side. So you've got to look at the picking order. You've got to see exactly what does Rassi want? He trusts these guys. There's one thing that Rassi showed, with this last 8 years or so. He's not just going to throw a guy away, just under the bus. He's going to leave him and let him go. He really believes that, to open the box jersey and stuff, I'm going to give you the opportunity. And so, yeah, it's a shame that, I feel that a guy like myself should have gotten more caps or so. But it's a bit difficult. I can't make this call, off the top of my head. He's on form, he's playing good rugby. But I mean, he's sitting with Siya, Kwagga, and obviously Mark van Staden, he's done the job as well. So it'll be difficult for him to get, into the squad. He might get into the squad here or there, but I mean, to get into, for me, Scoop, it's easy to get into a box squad, but to get into a meaningful test match, let's say against Ireland, France, or New Zealand or so, get into that match day 23 is going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, no, those are fair points. Vickers, you wanted to jump in there?
No, Jade actually touched on it. The question would be, what would be the reason that they would bring him in? Because of the fact that you still have Marco, you still have Kwagga. So what would be the main reason why a person like Marcel would come into the squad? So there shouldn't be a reason why, because like I said, there's a lot of cover at number 6, and again, if you look at 6 or 8, there's a lot of cover. They've just brought in Evan Ross within that, because if Honeycomb is injured, then they have Honeycomb, they have Evan Ross, they have Kwagga Smith, they have Visa. So there's a lot of cover. There's a lot of cover. So you wouldn't understand why they'll bring in a person like Marcel at his age. You must remember, guys, as much as it's all fun and games, everyone is looking towards what's going to happen in 2027 World Cup. So you have to build your squad. You can't be just handing out caps for the sake of winning a rugby game today and not realizing what's going to happen tomorrow. So for me, the mere fact that he's at his age and we have this such cover within the squad, I mean, the guys of Siya Kolisi, the likes of Siya Kolisi, Kwagga Smith are all in the same age at 32, 33 years old. And then you bring in a Marcel who's like a little bit older. It wouldn't make sense in my books. So, yeah.
No, fair enough. But we know Heineke Meyer was a very big fan of Marcel Coetzee, Jade. Umbumelelo is asking, what are you guys' thoughts of Siya being subbed back-to-back weekends now by John Plumtree? He never plays a full 80. Jade, do you have any thoughts?
When last Siya played a full 80, I mean, it's been accustomed to Siya getting subbed. So, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's between Plummy and him, because last week in Siya came off with Sharks. Actually had a better game. I'm not saying it's coincidence, but the Sharks played better. They got into the game after the 15th minutes or so. Siya came off.
Yeah, Jade, I don't think we should look deep into it, because every coach requires a different performance from a player, and it could be that it's actually in his contract that it never plays more than 60 minutes. So we also have to be mindful of those kind of things that we've learned in this day and age that contracts are actually stipulated. I need to start 80% of the games, all of that. So those kind of things come into play. So for me, look, if you look at Sia as being a top try scorer 2 weeks ago, he was one of the top try scorers, and then for us to be questioning his removal off the field to this 2 weeks later, it doesn't make sense. So let's not look too much into that. It is what it is. The coaches decided that they want to sub him. That's it.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Then Vickers, Leinster, Bulls, your thoughts in terms of who's winning predictions?
So I think, look, for me, it's pretty easy pick. I think Leinster. I honestly think Leinster will go through. They should dominate the game. Look, Scoop, if I look at the Sharks game versus the Bulls, we know how the Sharks have performed this season, and I felt the Bulls could have lost that game, and I don't feel that Leinster could have lost that semi-final. So if I look at the two and I balance the two, I feel like, look, Leinster should run away with this game, and unfortunately, unless the Boere come and they decide to go hard, nothing's gonna change. And we know when the Blue Bulls come, they will come all day. But when they decide to sleep, Leinster will take charge, and they will take charge properly.
Hey, Jade, are we worried about the Boere coming? What are your thoughts? What are your predictions for next week?
You know what? I think with the travel, we need to be really, pay in terms of the travel. I mean, I hate using it as an excuse or so, but we all just explained it a few days ago, or a few episodes ago, with how difficult it is to travel outside, in the space of a week turnaround. So, that all favors for Leinster. So, I think Leinster will hold the line this time. I really, really think so. I think they'll win. But if they don't, the opposite dance.
The Popper dance. I think the Bulls have it in them for the first 40. I think if there's any change in that game, it'll probably happen between the third quarter, just after halftime. And maybe that's when the game will be determined on who will definitely win that game. Bulls, I think their forward pack will basically stand up against Leinster. Just worried about the backs at times. Villaroo at the back. Maybe they can try Cannon Moody at fullback. How would that go? Or maybe Cannon Moody moves back into 13, depending on the strategy that Jake would want to play, because I think Jake will definitely be kicking a lot on Saturday. They will definitely be kicking a lot. Try and play as much percentage footy as possible to not get his forward pack exhausted, because that forward pack is heavy of the Bulls. Those props are massive. So if you keep those guys running all the time with the kicks, they're gonna be gassed by halftime. So I don't know. It just depends on what will happen from next week onwards. Right, Jade, talk to us. The Blues from Pacific beating the Chiefs. What a game! What a game! They've basically nailed their spot in the semifinals next week, and they go to Christchurch. But yeah, just take us through the game, man, and also looking at Hurricanes, Brumbies, and then we'll look into the semifinals and predictions.
Yeah, you know what? The Blues are stuck in there. The Chiefs had opportunities. You're thinking of Cortes Ratimo's opportunity to score. They butchered the Blues tries, but the Blues stuck in there. And that last 20 minutes, they just grew into the game and winning the game on the buzzer with Josh Beery scoring a try. That's the Blues. They won the competition last year. They've been very, very poor this season, but they're still in this competition. I don't know how they're still in there. They go to Christchurch the weekend against a Crusaders team that, they know how to win a final. The Blues also knows how to win a final. So it'll be very, very difficult and close to goal. But for the Chiefs, the Chiefs could have had a home final now. I think if the Crusaders win the weekend, the final goes to Christchurch. So I think that's also plays a big role, and they'll be kicking themselves for not putting the Blues away, and also not putting this Blues team away. It's really playing with fire. The Chiefs, luckily enough, gets another opportunity. They stay in it. But if you're looking at the Blues, you're looking at the players that performed. You have guys like Bowden Barrett, Oscar Tutu, Patrick Tupelotu, Scoop. I mean, you spoke about it 2 or 3 years ago when you said how crucial you'll be for this next 2 or 3 years or so until there be another lock coming up in New Zealand, for him to be in that, and to still putting another captain in his like for the Blues. Looking at guys like that, putting in performances, picking in there till the end, beating the Chiefs in Hamilton. I wouldn't say really makes this season. I think they'll be disappointed, to where they are, where they ended, how the season went. But it gives them an opportunity next week against the Crusaders. And they know next week for the Crusaders, if the Mighty Williams is not fit, that's a big, big loss for the Crusaders because he's one guy. He's a big boy, but he has legs on him. He can scrum. He carries hard. He makes his tackles. He makes his cleans. He's all over the park. So I don't think the Crusaders can really replace him in terms of the work and output he does in terms of carrying, scrummaging. He supported line-out time because he's a big boy. He's a big supporter as well. Especially in the middle part where he picks up there. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough for the Blues next week, but it's going to be a good game. The North and South Derby there. Those two teams hate each other. The Canes, Coop, as you just look at that, you know it's going to be difficult to Canberra. It's going to be difficult to play against the Brumbies. The score was 14-all, 5 minutes before halftime. The Canes had a line out on the 5 of the Brumbies. They got the ball off the top, and Devin Flanders running full speed at Noah Lower Seals channel. You think he'll take contact there, if he doesn't get over the advantage line, they recycle and they play from there. He played a tap around while he was in full speed, and they played the ball back to Ruben Love. We eventually threw an intercept pass, and the Brumbies got the ball, built up, got a penalty, kicked the ball out, scored a try before halftime. That was the game there. That was the swing, because the Canes could have scored there. They would have went into halftime. It would have been 21-14. The Brumbies could have gone halftime 21-14. And that's the difference you have when you go into the Brumbies and you're playing in Canberra. You need to take those opportunities. I mean, it's just, if you came back and you're looking at it, a guy like Devin Flanders, who's a big unit, why is he throwing that pass? They carry the ball off that advantage line, score, or just recycle, set up play from there. So I think with Craig Laidlaw, he'll be looking at that moment in the game. Yeah, getting the Brumbies at halftime trailing instead of you trailing at halftime. Those are the inches that you need to win if you're going to win in Canberra, because it's not easy to get there to play there. It's cold. The Brumbies was on song. The Brumbies are a team. They might not have the best team or so, but they are a unit. They know exactly what to do on attack. If they get the ball, they'll run from the 22. They'll keep the ball. Phase after phase after phase, and eventually they get a sniff and they'll score. They're that kind of team. They protect the ball, they look after the ball. So yeah, that was a game for the Canes, and they'll be very bitterly disappointed because they were one of the form teams going into the knockouts. I think the Brumbies were a little bit upset that they didn't get their home semi because they had to play this Hurricanes team or red out for. So yeah, so next week we have the Chiefs versus the Brumbies. We have the Blues and the Crusaders playing. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I don't think the Chiefs will lose back-to-back in the semi-finals. If they do, they've got a big problem there. But yeah, good weekend of Super Rugby. Looking forward to the next one. I don't know what you think of that Brumbies Hurricanes games group, because that was the game for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was shocked to see. I probably replayed it this morning, but just the that score before halftime, yeah. I mean, that's like a dampener. That's like a stab in the heart, I think the game was quite evenly balanced. I think the Brumbies also have a very good, strong forward pack, and they know how to get around with those mauls. They use them effectively. But I think they'll be unstuck next week. I don't think they will be capable to go full 80 in Hamilton. They will go 60, definitely. They've got that in the tank. They've got 60 in them, but 80 minutes, I think that's when the Chiefs will start firing, because the Chiefs probably have a better bench than the Brumbies, because we've seen how McMillan has used that bench for the Chiefs this season. Has used it very well and effectively. Obviously, a lot of Chiefs fans are not happy what what happened against the Blues, and I see a lot of people complaining about certain players, etc. But at the end of the day, you will get those dips. And I mean, we saw that with like a guy like a Lukhanyo Am over against the Blue Bulls. Obviously, a lot of handling errors, which is not like him. But I mean, guys, there were guys from the Chiefs that weren't really in rock solid form. I think McKenzie also missing a winning kick, and you're like, what is happening over here? Is this rigged? Is it not rigged? But nonetheless, I think the Chiefs will have too much in them for next week. Very disappointed with the Hurricanes. I really thought they would win, but I'm very impressed with Pete. Is it Peter Umaga Jensen, right? At center at second five. He's really come on. He's really come on strong. I mean, looking at a good replacement for Riley Higgins at 12, that was really impressive. He's come in and he's taken that 12 jersey and he's made it his. I think they'll have a big problem at Hurricanes when Jordie Barrett comes back. You've got Riley Higgins, you've got Jordie Barrett, you've got Pudge. It's going to be quite interesting to see how they find places for these guys. Maybe Umaga Jensen can go to the go to the Blues, because I think the Blues might need a second five in that position. Another thing I wanted to ask, Vickers, Laidlaw is from the Sevens background, right? I've seen him with the Sevens in New Zealand. He did. I mean, taking over Gordon Tidgens is a tough ask. Gordon Tidgens has won many series, 7 series. He is now Sir Gordon Tidgens because of the way he's dominated the Sevens circuit. And then Laidlaw came in to take over as a Sevens coach. And then I've seen him now move from Sevens coaching to the under-20s. Wasn't really impressed with what he did with the under-20s in New Zealand, to be honest. He went into the Hurricanes, and I wasn't sure. I'm still not sure about his style, because I think at one point I'm like, the Hurricanes really need like a very strong forward pack. They've got very good backline, very skillful backline, but I think forward pack is what they need the most. And also changing Ruben Love from 10 to 15 could have also been one of those impacts that it kind of changed the dynamic of the team, man. But I mean, Laidlaw, Vickers, have you come across him? Have you seen his style? I mean, what do you think of his coaching as well? What's your experience, if you've had any experience with him?
Yeah, Scoop. I think, look, if you look at the two, like if you talk now about the 7s and the 15s, I think for me, Laidlaw is a man manager. He knows how to manage the system, and I think that's what he's done with the Hurricanes within the Sevens, because he, as you say, he was in the Sevens. He actually, I think his background is women's Sevens, men's Sevens, into under-20s, back to men's Sevens, and then into Hurricanes. So he's sort of understood how to manage his teams. I'm not going to talk about his in terms of his strategies and everything, but as a head coach, you always need to be able to run a system fluidly in terms of your culture, how you want things done and everything. And I think that's what it brought in terms of the Sevens, for example, because in Sevens, you have to run everything. You have to create tournaments out of nothing. You have to create a structure and make sure that your team is growing, make sure that you're blooding in youngsters. And that's a head coach's job to do. And with Laidlaw, what he's done is that he's managed the situation quite well. And the excitement of a new coach in a 15 setup, it's always been received quite well. And also coming back from Sevens setup in terms of what Sevens coaches bring, I mean, for talking from experience, is that whenever I've coached a team, with the moment that I come in, there's a lot of excitement because of the energy that I get from sevens setup. So we always try to make sure that you don't create those splits. And in 15s, is quite a lot where you get the splits, the forwards, backs, the tight heads versus the loosies, or the back three versus the creators of the team. So in sevens, we always try to have everyone within the squad, within the group, but you can never take that for granted anyway, because obviously that's what 15s do. But a sevens coach will bring that different mindset, and it will stimulate the players in terms of how they think. And I think for me with Lado, you went out of the sevens, came back, started winning again with the sevens. So he's got the understanding of the culture. What he's done with the Hurricanes is that he's brought in a different culture, and I think he's trying to make sure that the Hurricanes are having their own culture, almost similar to what we've always known about the Crusaders. And what he's done now is that he's trying to make sure that he breeds in a winning culture. And when he starts breeding in a winning culture, that will be much easier to handle. And whatever players come through, they'll come through the same system. So, yeah, look, I've got much respect for Lado, and I think he's done so well. And his presence within the seven setup of New Zealand have been missed. I don't think the team has been this kind of low, but hopefully they will change within the sevens. They will change their mentality and their culture, and then hopefully later will start getting some results within the 15s, so that it can be recognized as the coach that he is.
Okay, fair enough. Jade, Blues Crusaders. Prediction.
Oh, it's going to be difficult for the Blues to get up again. I think the Crusaders just know how. I think the type 5 is stronger than the Blues type 5. I think especially, Fletcher Newell coming back. Cody Taylor, Blues guys there. And then also you have your World Gordon back there, the back as well. So I think that aspect, I think the Crusaders will have too much for them. And also the other game as well, I think the Chiefs will have too much for the Brumbies. So I think it'll be Crusaders Chiefs 5.
What we deserve. Vickers? Blues, Crusaders, Brumbies, Chiefs?
No, bro, I'm always going to New Zealand teams. You know me. So, yes, definitely Chiefs. Yeah, and I think, look, I've watched the Blues this year, and like Jade has been saying all along, there seems to be a breakdown of structure within the play, within on the field. So definitely Crusaders Chiefs final.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Vickers. Thank you, Jade. Thank you to all the listeners. It's been a great show. Now, finals footy next week. Dabizinto, I don't know. Pray to the gods that the Bulls can get over the line next week against Leinster on the road. On the road. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Vickers, sleep well. I know it's very, very late. That side is probably midnight now. So, thanks for staying up and joining this afternoon. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.